Simon Harris, the Tanaiste, took to Twitter, or X, and he posted this: "I am shocked and appalled at reports that the IDF," that's the Israeli Defence Forces, "fired shots in the vicinity of a visit to Jenin today by a group of diplomats, including 2 Irish diplomats based in Ramallah. Fortunately, no one was hurt. This is completely unacceptable and I condemn it in the strongest terms." Hannah McCarthy, the journalist, is with me now. Hannah, what do we know about this?
Sure. So today there was basically it was a combination of a diplomatic visit and a press visit to Jenin, and basically a large group of EU diplomats, including Irish diplomats, was brought to one of the entrances of Jenin refugee camp, which is part of Jenin city. It's not full of tents; it's full of kind of buildings. But basically, since January, this camp has been completely emptied of all its residents. So I was there. I was actually at the spot that is featuring in the videos that are being shared online now, where the delegation is shot at about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And basically what's happened is all the entrances to the camps have either got these big mounds of mud on them so that people can't go through them, or they've put these kind of military style yellow gates on the entrances. So that's one of the entrances that this delegation visited. So when I was there, I was warned to not go near this gate. I was told I was likely to be shot at or beaten if I went nearby. This is what the locals told me. And we saw that play out today, where there was, we saw, for example, a cameraman trying to take make a video report near the entrance, and there was kind of shots fired, and we see kind of diplomats kind of running very chaotically towards their cars.
How febrile is the atmosphere in that part of the world? There's so much focus on Gaza, understandably, and we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. Francis Black, the independent senator, is with me. Slightly less focus on what's happening in the West Bank. I mean, can you understand, having been there, how this happened? Not to justify it for a moment, but, is that just the nature of the atmosphere there at the moment?
Well, I mean, this camp has been emptied for 4 months. There's about 20,000 people that have not been allowed home. They're living with family members. They're living in hotels. They're living in schools. They're living in pretty terrible conditions. Jenin camp was already, it's both a center of, Palestinian resistance. There were some armed groups there, but I mean, the camp has been emptied. There is no one there. And what's happening is buildings there are being bulldozed in order to make these wide roads so that Israeli vehicles can go through the camp. There's watchtowers being installed. There's cameras being installed. So, I mean, it's extremely intense, but this is in the middle of a Palestinian city. So when the IDF says that this delegation, made an unauthorized detour, they're saying they took an unauthorized detour in a Palestinian city, which is supposed to be part of, Area A, which is supposed to be under Palestinian control. The Palestinian Authority is supposed to be there. So, I mean, the idea that they would need authority from the IDF to move in there is a real breach of just the whole idea of the Oslo Accords. Yeah,
I mean, a cynic listening to this would suggest that what they were really doing was trying to divert prying eyes away from the fact that they are annexing territory.
Yes, and I mean, it's not a massive secret. I mean, they are bulldozed. They have kind of got a map, and people understand. I spoke to residents there, and a lot of them are aware. Some of their houses have already been destroyed, and some of them are very aware that their houses have been marked for demolition. So that's all happening. Over the next, has been happening and is ongoing. So I mean. And people have been told, they can't return to their homes. They have their passports there. They have birth certs. They have, family artifacts, and they've been told they can't go back there.
And you would have been a kind of part of these delegations before, Hannah, and will be again. Is it the nature of them that the IDF or other authorities, the Palestinian Authority or whoever it happens to be, would be told who is going to be in the area and why, particularly where there are diplomats?
Yeah, and I mean, the whole idea of these delegations is that there's safety in numbers. So, there's always, there's almost always press with these delegations. And the idea is that, the diplomats go, they see for themselves what's happening. And it gives a bit of cover for journalists who might face risks going to some of these areas. So when I drove by that area, I did not get out of the car. And my Palestinian driver was again quite concerned. I took a photo from a car of that exit or the entrance that is the site of this shooting today. because it was so tense. And, the buildings, it kind of looks, it's hard to actually understand what's happening, I think, if you're not familiar. But all the buildings behind there in those scenes have been emptied. No one has been allowed back in. So it's just very tense. And these delegations, they're supposed to give kind of security. There's supposed to be security in numbers. And all these diplomats would have their own security staff. They'd have armoured vehicles. So, I mean, it's a quite a blatant attack.
Anna, listen, thanks a million for talking us through all of that. Francis Black is with us, the independent senator as well. Francis, I want to talk to you about the occupied territories bill in Gaza in a moment, but on one level, I mean, it speaks to the impunity with which the IDF feel they can operate, that, they know full well there are diplomats in this travelling delegation and they'll take pot shots at them.
Absolutely, Kieran. I mean, here we have a situation where, again, the Israeli army's actions constitute a grave violation of international law and an absolutely unacceptable attempt to terrorize representatives of the international foreign and Arab countries where, these diplomats participated, including two of our own people who were on that delegation. And, I think this incident reveals the suffering of the people of Jenin and its camp, and at the hands of the occupation. Again, Israel are breaking international law. They've assassinated dozens of Palestinian civilians in Jenin, and they've destroyed thousands of homes and practiced ethnic cleansing against the residents of Jenin camp and the Tulkarm and Nur Shamp refugee camps also. So it's absolutely outrageous, and they're acting. I mean, the world is watching this. I'm every day I am becoming so shocked, and I mean, it's beyond belief. Kieran, it's like watching a horror movie that's happening in front of our own eyes. The world is watching, and there's no actions being taken, and that's why we need the Occupied Territories Bill.